On a cold November night in 1957, police officers in Plainfield, Wisconsin, stepped into a farmhouse looking for a missing woman. What they found inside was not a crime scene. It was a nightmare made real. And the reclusive man who lived there, Ed Gein, would instantly become the blueprint for every cinematic psycho you've ever been afraid of. The search was for Bernice Worden, a local hardware store owner. The prime suspect was her last known customer, a quiet 51-year-old bachelor named Ed Gein. The town knew him as harmless, if a little odd, but as they approached his isolated farm, they had no idea they were about to unlock a door to pure horror. To understand the monster, you have to go back to the beginning. Ed Gein was raised by an intensely religious and abusive mother who preached that all women were vessels of sin, except for her. She filled his childhood with fire and brimstone warnings, isolating him and his brother from the world. His father was weak, his brother died mysteriously, and when his mother, the only woman he revered, died too, Ed was left utterly alone in that quiet, empty house. And that's when the silence began to rot his mind. He developed a morbid fascination with death and the female anatomy, fueled by his mother's twisted teachings and his own isolation. He began reading pulp adventure magazines and books about anatomy and Nazi experiments. This theoretical curiosity soon became a practical one. He started digging up recently buried women from local graveyards, bringing their bodies back to his farmhouse workshop. But the graves weren't enough. In 1954, a tavern owner named Mary Hogan disappeared. Then, in 1957, Bernice Worden. The connection was Ed Gein. He had shot both women, dragging their bodies back to his farm. But murder wasn't the end goal for Gein. It was acquisition. He wasn't just killing, he was collecting. And what he was building in that house of horrors was beyond anyone's comprehension. When police finally entered Gein's home, the stench of death was overwhelming. In the dim light, they found Bernice Worden's headless, gutted body hanging upside down in a shed. Horrified, they pressed into the main house. And that's when the true scale of Gein's madness came into focus. The inventory from Ed Gein's home reads like a script from a horror film. A lampshade made of human skin, a soup bowl fashioned from a human skull, a chair seat woven from the same grisly material, 9 death masks, faces of women peeled from skulls and mounted on the walls, a vest made from a female torso, and perhaps most chillingly, a box full of female genitalia. Ed Gein wasn't a killer for pleasure or profit. He was a transgressive artist of death, trying to build a new woman from the pieces of the old. Gein readily confessed, but his trial was a question of sanity, not guilt. Found legally insane, he was sentenced not to death, but to a state mental hospital for life. The quiet farmer was now a national bogeyman. And while he was locked away, his legend began to seep into the very fabric of American horror. Ed Gein's case became a direct inspiration for a trilogy of terror. Robert Bloch's novel Psycho, and later Hitchcock's film, gave us Norman Bates, the mother-obsessed taxidermist. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre gave us Leatherface and his skin mask-wearing family. And The Silence of the Lambs gave us Buffalo Bill, building a woman suit from his victims. 3 iconic monsters, all born from the same quiet Wisconsin farmhouse. Ed Gein died in 1984. His house burned to the ground by an arsonist. But his legacy is permanent. He stands as a dark reminder that the most terrifying monsters are not vampires or werewolves, but the quiet, lonely men living just next door, their madness festering in plain sight. If you want to understand the roots of modern horror, you have to start with Ed Gein.